Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another retrospective. I am the very confused Trout Snail.
I feel that, man. I am the also confused Dylan Moss.
And I am the strongest in the universe, Kirklin.
There you
I should have just
go.
been like the all-knowing. That's why.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be reviewing a Dragon Ball. I guess retrospecting. Not too old of retrospective. This is probably our youngest retrospective. I've say this movie came out in 2018. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Other than that, like Zombieland, that's like 10 years old. So this is
yeah.
probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. I want to thank Dakari Sanchez. This was his movie. If you want to pick a movie, you go to Patreon right now and select any tier, $5, $25 tier. It doesn't matter what it is. We will be reviewing a movie or a game if you want to throw that out there of your choice. We'll retrospective. Obviously, if we do a game, it might take a little long if we got to play through and we've never done that before. So we're doing that with Batman Arkham Asylum right now and the whole franchise. So that's going to be lots of fun. So yeah, links are down below for the video and audio. Just subscribe, go to Facebook. The Star Wars polls popping off. There's always we're updating you on news and the schedule. If you like what we do here, leave us a review if you like a retrospective. We can't retrospective the Geekverse, but you can sure review us. And go to Apple Podcasts and leave a nice 5-star written review. Those are the ones that count. And yeah, so we're going to be talking about some Dragon Ball here. I think Kirkland, you should go last. So, Dylan, I'll start with you. What is your experience with Dragon Ball? And then, what did you think about this film?
So my experience with Dragon Ball is quite limited. I've seen like a few episodes of the show, but it was never really my show when I was younger. I think most of my experience comes from like various fighting games. I don't think I've ever owned one, but I've just played a bunch at friends' houses over the years, so I'm familiar with a bunch of the characters, but can't say I really know their affiliations or their storylines or things like that. But I think I don't know what I've always liked about Dragon Ball. I just love the art style. I like how colorful it is. It's very like Yu-Gi-Oh! It reminds me of like the color schemes at least. And the color is weird. It's like I feel like it's very conflicting colors, but they somehow fit together really well. So yeah, I've always just kind of appreciated the art style of it, but never really been too into the show. I think that's just because I mean, even though I guess I just haven't really been much of an anime guy, and even though it kind of bridges the gap between a more casual thing and then more anime, it's just never really been my genre. So I've limited Dragon Ball experience, and I don't think I've seen any of the movies. I'm sure there's been a ton of them over the years. Um, but what did I think about this movie? I thought it was pretty fun. I liked some of it. I think a lot of it just went right over my head. Like I feel like there's a lot of stuff referencing either the show or another movie or something that I just didn't really get the full like landscape. I don't really know what they're referencing or like why this character's here. And that's fine. Like I feel like I was still able to follow along and the story still makes sense, but I feel like the extraneous details, the lore stuff, I couldn't follow it, which makes sense, right? There's tons to this franchise over the years, so it makes sense that I wouldn't just know everything. Um, but yeah, I had fun with it. I think the thing I thought the most interesting was just kind of the different areas they went to, the different planets or realms or whatever they're called. I just really liked the design of like the different planets, and they're very over the top, strange designs. But I found it really fun to just from the adventure point of view, seeing the different places. I was watching the movie with like the dubbed version, and the voice acting was really bad. So that's definitely one thing I would say. I didn't really care too like I don't. I think one reason I haven't really ever gotten too into Dragon Ball is because the fighting doesn't really interest me. I think that's just a thing with me in anime. I just find the fighting in anime like really not that interesting. And there's like the second half of this movie is just like one long battle essentially. So I was not really that into that aspect of it, but I think there's a lot of fun characters that you kind of meet throughout this story, and it was a fun movie. I don't think I'll watch it again at any point, but I think if you're I don't know into this kind of thing, it's probably worth a watch. It's like an hour 40 or something like that, so it's pretty nice length. So yeah, overall I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, so Dragon Ball, I've seen an episode as far as maybe 2 to 3 minutes scrolling through a TV back in the day. I'm kind of the same camp as Dylan, not much in anime, even though like it has a lot in common with wrestling as far as like it's super loud, it's very cheesy at times, it's very wild circumstances, and like the acting, even though it's animation, like we've talked about this many times with Kilby and whatnot. That's some of the stuff Kirkland loves. When they do some of those harsh like face zoom ins, oh man, sometimes it there's just such a serious moment going on, and it's like, duh! And I get taken right out of it every time. But I teetered kind of all over this film to being like kind of bored with it to intrigued with it to really liking it. And that's not like the progression of the story, just like at times. One thing I'd say about the fight is it was massively long. I only have one issue with it, but I quite love it. That's one thing about Man of Steel that I do enjoy is like I love the fighting, I love the cinematography, and that's one thing they do a great job. Like all the settings, all the different situations, I think that's very visually stunning and like really well, like as far as creative. Even though it is just like I have questions because I have no idea how Super Saiyan works, anything like that. So I have some mega questions about that, but I agree with Dylan as far as the beginning. The first 30 minutes, I felt, I won't say lost, but I definitely felt like, oh man, I feel like I'm dropping in an Infinity War and I haven't seen any of the MCU. You know, it's like they're telling me things and they're telling me, okay, this person's related this person's related that. But it's also just, it opens with like 3 to 4 major storylines. Like, okay, here's the villain, here's Broly, here's Dragon Ball, here's Dragon, see, I'm calling him Dragon Ball Z, here's Goku's origin, here's Vegeta's origin. Like, that's all these things. Like, it was so much to take in. I think that could, and that's the thing though. From I'm just saying from a person who's never seen it, I think that could have been paced differently. But I'm sure if you're a fan and you've seen or have a more than general knowledge than the rest of people, like you've seen these and maybe not rewatch them, you'd probably not be lost, so you'd be fine there. So I enjoyed it. There was times actually where I was like, I'd like to go in and actually watch some of this because what I love and what I love about the MCU and comic books and wrestling to extent as well that is just lore, and I liked some of the ideas. I loved the relationships. I liked like some of the like backstories, like, oh, this guy might have been a villain and they're, you know, together now, stuff like that. So I liked all of that. But like I said, in a package, I think I enjoyed it as much as I could, except for the beginning. The beginning I was quite bewildered about what's going on and why do these guys have tails, and I never got that answer why Goku has a tail. I don't know why he had a tail. I don't even know where it is anymore. It didn't look like he had it. I don't know, maybe it's just under his clothes. But I think that was the other thing too, because my last point before I throw to Kirkland, I think that if you have a general like watching, you've seen multiple episodes, maybe you watch the season, you would already know the rules of the world. So then you might still be lost in the story a bit, but you still know the rules. For me, I was trying to figure out everything like who's this character, what are the rules, like I said, why these guys have tails, and then just the actual story, what's going on, and just even just stuff like I didn't know Goku was so funny and whatnot because everything I had just seen before, it's him in Super Saiyan, it's him doing badass stuff. It's always like versus like, oh, who would win, him versus Superman, and like all this stuff. But he's like very like quippy, very like, I'm not gonna say Deadpoolish, but kind of that where he's not taking things serious, things like that. So I was really thrown off like a lot, but I actually did enjoy it, and I don't know if I have the life bandwidth to put in Dragon Ball Z into my life, but it's on the potential maybe one day because I think I liked more than I disliked or was indifferent, so that was a good start. And I'd like to watch more to know like what was actually happening. So Kirkland, I'll throw to you because you're gonna know a lot more
Yeah,
than us.
that's pretty awesome to hear you guys' fairly positive reviews on it. Because honestly, I had no idea what to expect. Like I know Travis was mentioning his favorite character was Piccolo, and he actually makes an appearance in
He
this, which
did. I was hyped.
I yeah, I was like, all right, Travis got his Piccolo scene. But like overall, I know you guys don't watch anime. I knew you guys never watched Dragon Ball Z too much, so I had no idea how you guys were gonna react to this. So you know, it warms my little heart knowing that you
Oh,
at least had a decent time with it. But yeah, Dragon Ball for me, this is like honestly probably like the one of the biggest parts of my life. Like I remember every single day that this was on, like back when we had like VHS recordings where I could actually like record the episodes on TV. I would record like every single Dragon Ball episode. Dragon Ball is different than Dragon Ball Z. It's like Goku's origin story of him when he's like younger, and then Dragon Ball Z is more like the over the top fighting. That's where they introduce like a lot of these other characters,
Oh, thank you for
like
clarifying.
the Super Saiyan stuff, like all of that comes in Dragon Ball Z, and like these over the top fights where it's just so like seismic, like planet ending fights.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of that happens in Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is just like martial arts tournaments, you know, like it's just basic. Like there's a character called Jackie Chun in it, like just a Jackie Chan ripoff. It's you know, it's just stuff like that.
hmm
And so yeah, I grew up with it. I kind of re-dove into Dragon Ball in like high school for whatever reason. Me and a couple buddies were just talking about it, got hyped, and then I think that's kind of what got me into anime actually. Like getting back into Dragon Ball Z again, just watching that sort of thing. I think I started watching like Attack on Titan afterwards. That was another anime that really got me into it, and then just went from there. So obviously, I mean, now anime is a pretty big part of my life, and it all started with Dragon Ball Z. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome going from there. So yeah, and it's interesting because this movie, Dragon Ball Super Broly, they already had three Broly movies.
Yeah.
Dylan said he wasn't too sure how many Dragon Ball movies there were. This is actually the 20th Dragon Ball movie, including all the different Dragon Ball Z ones. It's pretty crazy that there's 20.
Well, the question
And
I had about is Super, because you said there's Dragon Ball, then there's Dragon Ball Z. Is Super
yeah,
like another?
Kind
Because
of the same question.
I
yeah.
was reading,
So
that this is like maybe more of a sequel to the manga more than the TV show.
so in I've never really read manga, so I'm not too sure if it differs. It's usually just like copy and pasted from the manga into the TV show. That's what they usually do in anime. But in this, so there's Dragon Ball, like I was mentioning before, Goku when he's younger, and then Dragon Ball Z is like the iconic one. That's where like a lot of people grew up on it. But then
Hmm.
that show ended like
Yeah.
years ago, and then they introduced Dragon Ball Super, which is like bringing back Dragon Ball Z. Like this is what's coming after Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, so
They had
sequel.
yeah, exactly. This is the sequel series. So the whole series is called Dragon Ball Super, and then it's episode by episode. I'm not actually too far into that. I for whatever reason just wasn't really watching it too much. The first two arcs in the show are about like two movies that I had already seen, so I just kind of like had lost interest in there. But watching this, it's got me hyped. I definitely want to jump back into Super. I think they did a decent job at addressing um just some things that you don't really need to know if you're not caught up in Dragon Ball Super. Obviously, it's tough for you guys because you've never actually seen Dragon Ball Z, so there is a lot of stuff in here that I feel like if you haven't seen the show before, you would be extremely confused.
Hmm.
Like not just like the character relationships, who's a bad guy, who's not, but like just how everything works. Like Travis, you're mentioning like the tails and how Goku has a tail. So what that is that Goku's not a human. He's
Yeah.
actually a Saiyan,
Yeah.
which planet Vegeta, that's the planet of the Saiyans,
Hmm.
and all Saiyans have that tail, like from birth. Like they just grow like a monkey tail. Um, I don't know if you guys remember, but they mentioned like the great ape form. So the
Yeah.
Saiyans, when they look at the moon, that will it just activates like their primal power or whatever of being a great ape, and then they turn into a great ape. And the big key of why that was important in this is because Broly was able to just like harness that power without actually transforming. He just remained like a human type form, but
Hmm.
he was just so powerful because he has the power of a great ape. I don't think they showed like the great ape form in this. So maybe if they're just like showing that as like a side by side way of playing it, maybe it would have cleared some things up there. But I mean, it's a whole nother can of worms because there's just so many things that you wouldn't know if you've never seen the show. Um, let's see. What are some of the other questions that you guys were
I
asking
had
that I
a
could
question
really
as far as where is this place? Because you said there's the series. Now is this like a movie in the middle of it, and then the series
Oh, okay, yeah,
continues? Yeah,
yeah.
because
Okay,
I
thanks.
was reading
Yeah,
up on Broly, and it said like originally they didn't plan him to be in the Super series, but then I thought, well, there's a movie about him, so that was one thing I
yeah.
was trying to wonder, like timeline wise.
So yeah, originally, I don't know specifically if it's every single movie, but majority of like the Dragon Ball Z movies, none of those are canon. Like those are just like one-off films. They're
Oh,
not
okay.
attached to the show whatsoever. And that was the case for the three Broly movies that they did. I was a big fan of the first one. I think I'd seen the second one once, but I never watched the third one. The third one was Bio Broly. They just make like a robotic version of Broly, so it didn't really get my interest. And the fact that it wasn't canon, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter if you watch it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of write off anyways. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's fun if you're a fan, but it doesn't progress the story in any way. So the big thing with this is that they actually put it under the Dragon Ball Super like title, which actually I was reading upon it too because I was a little confused on why they chose to do it like under the Super title, just because. I mean, I guess because the show that they have right now is Super, but this is actually canon now. Like they made Broly a canon character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure the series is finished right now, at least like their season or whatever you would call it. So maybe like they'll be uh, again like I'm not all the way caught up on Dragon Ball Super, so I don't know if he was in the show at the end of the series. Like I'm not too sure there, but just the fact that it is canon, it definitely has me hyped because Broly is just it's I think he's a fairly iconic like Dragon Ball villain, and I think that's saying a lot because he's not even in the main canon. He's so popular among fans of Dragon Ball Z that they just love him so much, and then the creators ended up putting him in the main canon. So I think that's pretty cool. So since this is kind of like a rehash, they did like redo his origin sort of, and
Yeah.
just yeah, like those other movies, they're kind of retconned, right? Like they're not canon, and then it's like a more updated version.
And I had read
I
he was more of a villain in the past, like straight up villain instead of like
oh
having this
yeah, 100%.
anti-hero slant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like his whole like the purpose to why he was a bad guy, why he hated Goku, like he absolutely hated Goku. He was like a psycho for the fact that like he just like like he just wanted to kill like Goku no matter what, and like just the sight of him just set him off into like that huge rage where he goes like I think it's called the legendary Super Saiyan mode when he just becomes that monster beast. Like he
Hmm.
loses pulls, he just becomes this huge
He's
like
the Hulk pretty much.
just yeah, well, essentially. And in the original, all of that was due to the fact that when they were babies, they were like, again, this is just a running theme in anime. They have pretty just janky like reasoning behind things, but it was because Goku was in the crib next to him, and he just would not stop crying, and it just fucked Broly up, like for whatever reason. Like he just never forgot that. So pretty
So
pretty
is
hilarious
it?
origin story there. And that was the original. So they redid that in
Hmm.
this one, which I was a huge fan of because I always thought that like that reasoning to why he hated him
Yeah.
so much was just a little janky. Sorry, Dylan, what were you guys?
I was just gonna ask. So Broly's storyline, you say he's like after he's like a main villain to Goku. Is that in Dragon Ball Z or is that in just other movies, like previous movies?
Yeah, so that was just the Broly movies because it
Okay.
wasn't canon in the show. Like he didn't make an appearance in the show whatsoever. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
like they made this character who's just so much stronger than anyone
Yeah.
that like nobody could reach that power. Like it's just
But you're
and
but
sorry,
there
go
is
ahead.
Dragon Ball Super, and
Yeah.
that there is a series, like a series, or is that only movies that Dragon Ball Super takes
So
place in?
Dragon Ball Super is the new series. It's the new TV series.
Okay.
I think it's a similar length to Dragon Ball Z. So like
Oh
Dragon Ball Z
wow,
had like 270 plus episodes, which I think
that's crazy.
I don't think it's quite there yet, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna keep making episodes on it, which is pretty
Well,
awesome.
they haven't. I'm not
Um,
sure about like breaks and whatnot, but as far as like the listing on IMDb, it says Super is going from 2015 to 2018. So I'm not sure if they stopped and there's more coming, or if it's they're gonna do a new
yeah,
series. But
I was asking my buddy because he's caught up
yeah,
like on all the episodes and he's seen this and he said that it's stopped, but he's anticipating just more episodes. Again, I haven't seen the end of the show, so I don't know if they end it in like a farewell thing, but
Hmm.
that's kind of like what they did with Dragon Ball Z, and I mean now they resurfaced it.
oh yeah, yeah. And
So who
Dragon
knows what
Ball
you can
does.
do there?
It seems like it never goes away in popularity. So
Oh yeah, exactly. Like I know you like checking stats on budgets and stuff. Have you seen like how much money it made?
they make a well, yeah, and that's why my
It
trivia notes that like in Japan when this movie was like the tickets went on sale, the first trailer came, it sold out 5 months before it even came out, like everywhere.
yeah
Like
Wow.
it's a
yeah
massive
it's
franchise. It's crazy. Like obviously I know what Dragon Ball Z is. I know it's always been around my life, but when I was looking at some of these stat stuff, it's like it is crazy how much these make. And I think the one time when it caught my eye was when the first ones. I think we had just started the podcast or whatnot, or maybe the year after when they first started coming to like Kelowna and Canada and North
mm-hmm.
America. And I remember them actually making spikes and making the top 10, which was very unknown for those type of movies. Like they had Dragon Ball Z movies had come out before, but it seems like their popularity is just growing in North America, not even sustaining or kind of just like wavering. It seems like it's growing, and this was the same thing. Had some big stats here in America too, so it was yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, it just like puts things in perspective of like, I mean, yeah, it's starting to become like more popular here, like you just mentioned, like you're starting to see it in theaters and stuff. But like if you go to like the Asian countries, like this is their like end game.
Yeah, there's Star
Like
Wars. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like this is like they are hardcore into it,
Well, that's
and
one thing I appreciated that I think they tried to do, but I didn't get enough. It was in the middle of big scenes, they would like quickly flash to, I could tell, like an old show or something like that to show, like, there's that one moment where Goku's like, we've had enemies before. And it shows, like, literally probably everybody he's ever fought in the
yeah,
show. So I
yeah,
appreciate appreciate that. It was tough for me to like get a hold because like I don't know everything or they did it. Oh, I can't remember. They did another cut. Oh, the cut that I really liked was when what's the fucking white villain guy name? The purple guy.
Vegeta.
No,
Purple guy. Oh, Frieza.
Vegeta's the
Frieza.
prince.
Yeah.
Frieza. His name's Frieza.
Yeah.
Frieza, yeah.
Frieza.
So I liked when they did the comparison of he realized that when Goku went Super Saiyan, I'm assuming for the first time, he killed somebody and Goku saw that. I'm not sure if it was the first time, but I like that parallel of
Yeah.
if I kill this guy's dad, it could power him up even more. So I
Yeah.
appreciate some of those. And those, honestly, those clips were the ones where I started looking into where I'm like, I like I said, I don't know if I have the life bandwidth, but I was like, it kind of got me interested because I loved seeing like, it was a deep lore, like there's clearly a deep lore in these. They've been going for years, but I like that type of stuff. So
No, for sure. Yeah. And I think it is important doing that. Like, because it is pretty short, but I mean, for you, like someone that's never really watched the show, like you could appreciate that
mhm.
because I think it's important because for the whole Super Saiyan thing, I feel like it's just such an iconic thing to like that's attached to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
Like, if you see someone like golden hair, like you're just gonna assume that he's Super Saiyan, even if you've never really seen the show. Like, you kind of
100%.
understand
Yeah.
like what that symbol is. And like you just mentioned Frieza saying that was the first time that Goku ever went Super Saiyan. That was the first time anyone ever saw like the Super Saiyan. And I mean, now everyone has it. Everyone and their grandma can pretty much go
Oh
Super
yeah,
Saiyan at this point.
multiple hair colors too. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a pink, and then I'm like, oh my god, there's a white. Oh, there's a blue now. Oh my god, and
Yeah.
that's where I was like, that's where I felt like I was missing out because it's like, how do you achieve this? Like, it just seemed like they could just
Yeah.
get it really easily, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then like obviously if you're like that whole transformation, that'll take like 30 episodes. Like it's a bit of a slower transition so you can like understand how like the meaning behind these transitions and how
Mm.
crazy they actually are. Whereas if you're just watching it in the movie, they're just popping like off and on.
Oh
And
yeah.
then like this guy that you think he's weaker and then all of a sudden he's like the same level as Goku. It's just like, okay, yeah, we're going this. It's just all happening fast. Um Jeez, I keep kind of losing where I was here.
That's kind of that's a good thing, I think. I have one like this is a very general like I feel like I could ask a million questions about the lore, but
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious about like in Dragon Ball is it generally like good versus evil? Like are I don't know all the names, but like Frieza and like when Broly was a bad guy, or some of the ones I know like the Majin characters or like the androids and stuff, like are all those kind of bad guys all on like the same team, or is it just like different factions that are all kind of opposing Goku?
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, for the most part, it's pretty like black and white who the villains are. Like once the story arc ends, you'll kind of get introduced to the new big bad. You know, like
Mm.
it's pretty easy in that sense. But like the whole thing with Goku, and then like just kind of tying into like what Travis was saying, how like he didn't understand how he didn't know that he was such like a kooky character. That's kind of just he's pretty much a buffoon. Like he's pretty dumb throughout the show. He's always trying to see the best in people. It fucks him over a few times where he thinks that he
Mm.
can trust a bad guy because he's trying to like
Right.
turn him to the good side, which you see in this movie, right? Like at the end, he's trying to become buddies with Broly, and like that's not uncommon. He does that all the time. There's many villains like Vegeta, who's like him and Goku pretty much against Broly this whole movie. Vegeta's like the first big bad villain in the show in Dragon Ball Z. Like
Yeah, I had a
he's
feeling he was like his
yeah
like Loki because like now they're
yeah
friends and they because when he says like I fought many people before, Vegeta's like the first one they go to
yeah
and stuff like
yeah
I think that's the other thing that's honestly just confusing when they did those three separate stories. All these fucking kids have such similar hair. They're all just black and so like I know like
yeah
one's parted to the left and one's like has a spike in the middle, but it's like man, there's so many kids that look alike. It is hard to follow here, you know?
yeah. Oh no, for sure. And then like they they try and like attach like the family members having like very similar hair so that maybe it's easier for like the average viewer to understand. Like do you remember the character Bardock? He's in this. Do you remember seeing that? Like that's Goku's dad. I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
know
okay,
that.
yeah. They die.
Yeah.
They die in like the Superman esque, like send them off the planet sort
Yeah.
of deal. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So that's Goku's dad. And then like Goku's son, one of Goku's son has like the exact same hair as Goku. So like I think they're just trying like keep the people with the similar hair. Like that's like those are their sons, that's their kids, that's the
That's
lineage.
funny.
Just maybe just clarity type things.
Yeah.
And then like King Vegeta, like that's Vegeta's dad. They
yeah.
almost looked exact same, but I think one guy had a goatee. cape, but yeah. And then just touching back upon Dylan, you mentioned some of the other bad guys, like you weren't sure if it was just like good or bad. Um, so I mentioned Vegeta, he got transformed or turned to the good side, obviously,
Mhm.
uh, and
But like,
then
I guess my
Majin
question is
was
like,
the
are
other
all
one.
the bad guys working like under one big bad guy that's controlling it all, or are they all just like
Mm,
they all just want the Dragon Balls separately and they're just going after Goku?
yeah, it's pretty much that easy.
Yeah,
Where it's just like, okay, well that bad guy's done for, so who can we write in to be another guy
right.
that to get the
But
Dragon
they're
Ball
not necessarily
and all.
working all together and stuff like that.
No, exactly. And again, I don't want to say one way or the other because I'm not actually caught up on Super. And I heard that they actually made some really interesting like villains incorporated in the show. That's a little bit different than like the formula that they normally have in Dragon Ball Z. Because Dragon Ball Z, it's pretty much the same in each arc. It's like, okay, well they got stronger, defeated that guy. And then the next one, this guy's even stronger, and then they needed to take him out in a different way, but it's pretty much the same like
It's
end result.
superhero and comic book stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. And I've always compared like at least a type of anime like this to a comic book or a superhero type character, right? Like
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of similarities.
This at
Big
times
world-ending fights like
this
that.
at times felt very MCU because there's lots of humor in the middle of battles, which sometimes would like take me out of it. But I remember that's sometimes the same way in MCU. If there's certain a joke that might be said, I'm like, I don't know if that was needed there, but you'll have Goku and Vegeta talking about dancing and whatnot. I'm like, this is supposed to be this
Yeah,
super serious moment, but then I'm like, it's just like Guardians where like Peter Quill's doing this big dance off. So I was like, okay, that's where I started to like it more because I
yeah,
was like, okay, I could see that. Where some jokes still don't hit for me because like, okay, this is like a little much, but I grew to appreciate where I was going on. Here's the dumbest question of all, but I think it has to be asked for me. What do the Dragon Balls do? And then I'll start actually asking questions about this actual film. But I think that's my last like main lore one because I know it brought that fucking dragon and he gave a
yeah,
wish. Is that what they always do? And if that's the case, is there a number? What's the thing? Because I actually have no idea.
yeah. So yeah, obviously the show's called Dragon Ball, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like one of
Yeah,
the biggest
vital
parts of it.
information. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 7 Dragon Balls. Um, and then when you collect all 7, you basically summon the eternal dragon, who's Shenron, which is the guy that you saw,
Yeah.
and he wishes. It's funny because I noticed in this he says, "I will grant you any wish that is within my power to grant," and I'm pretty sure in the original he just says, "I'll grant you any wish," and then I think there's like a story plot that like someone wishes for something and then it like changes the rules and it's a little janky there, like sometimes they have that in shows
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they just kind of just disregard some of the things they said. But I noticed in this he said that, and I could be wrong on that. But I thought it was a little funny. But yeah, so they can wish for anything. If you watch the show, there's a lot of eye roll. They just like there's a huge battle going on, and then they have the Dragon Balls with them, and they're like, "All right, anyone that dies, we'll just wish them back to life," because that happens times. People die, and then they just get brought back with the Dragon Ball.
Okay.
It's pretty eye rolly. I mean, comic
I
books
thought there was a lot
has
of
that stuff.
resurrection from my memory.
Yeah, there's a lot of times that people are fighting with halos and like they're literally dead, but they're fighting in a match because it's just like, oh yeah, I made a deal. They allow me to be on Earth for however long the battle lasts. Like it's just a lot of eye roll stuff like that happens.
So when
I
you
mean, it's a
do
running theme.
when you do a wish with these Dragon Balls, do they disperse to
Yeah,
other
yeah.
locations again? They
So
disappear.
on this, they go up in the air and then they scatter and then
Oh,
they go
okay.
across the world. But they actually turn into stones and then they won't turn into a Dragon Ball in for a year. So you can only make like
Oh.
one wish per year, but like it takes a year for them to turn into Dragon Ball. So you have to like start the search after a year.
Okay.
It was a lot. It was a lot bigger of like a feat. I feel like in the Dragon Ball times because now everyone can fly.
Yeah.
Everyone can just like portal wherever the hell they want. Like it's back in the day, like that was the whole adventure was like Goku as a kid running around with Bulma, like trying to find these Dragon Balls. That was the adventure, right? Whereas
Yeah.
now it's these ending fights and stuff, which
And
they kind of just use it to bring people back. There's a lot like obviously you see like the different flavor of humor that they kind of have in like an Asian type culture of like there's plenty of times where they'll make like they have one wish they can wish for whatever they want and then there's literally a time that a guy wishes for like, a pair of girls underpants or something like the softest underpants that he could just have. It's just like a really like okay whatever like
yeah.
maybe that's a lot funnier in like the Asian market that kind of rolls off like you mentioned there's some humor in there that didn't really hit with you, it's the same thing for me. Like there's a lot of stuff I'm like, okay, that's it's kind of random. I mean, I mean, a lot of the humor hits me, but at the same time, it is made for a different market,
Yeah.
and they just have different like humor and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I had a feeling because that's one thing. It definitely seemed like the Dragon Balls were just a plot device in this movie because it's just like they were just kind of there. Like they established that they were found, had them, but and that same thing. There could have been some stuff in canon before where it was a longer, more journey to get them where they were, but it just felt like unless
Mhm.
it was like just a side thing. Or when this dragon came up, I was like, oh my god, I feel like there's something very major happening here that I have no concept of, and I knew something because the whole time I'm like, what do these balls do? What do the balls do? Like
Yeah,
this mini lizard man has them. Like, what's he gonna do with them? And then this dragon came out of nowhere, and I was shocked. And
yeah.
he yeah, it was. But okay, now I know, so that's good.
I was pretty eye roll with and of like the one girl who sees the good in Broly, like save him back to the planet that he came from. It's like, okay, that's a little convenient. I
Hmm.
mean, whatever. We'll just go with it.
Yeah, yeah,
I am really happy like with how the ending happened and how Broly's still kicking because in the original, like he literally just got like shot. It's like, well, that character's gone. Like whatever. Kind of like
yeah.
the Red Mask or not Red
Black
Mask. She's
Mask
Red Skull. So
or Red
like
Skull. Yeah,
Black Mask, Red Skull, Red Skull, Black Mask.
yeah, yeah. Two characters that died in one movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Skull wearing a black mask.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like the actual film. My biggest highlight was because the other characters, like with Vegeta and Goku, I definitely like Vegeta a lot more because Goku. I think I could like Goku over time, but it's just that caught me off guard, so I had to adjust. But with those guys, I feel like there's still so much I haven't learned that's hard for me to like really like them or invest. Where Broly, like in this one, you're seeing kind of you're seeing the beginning of a story, right? And I liked very much the story of okay, he's been cast away. His dad's just made him this ultimate machine. I think when I started actually really enjoying the characters when they gave the whole origin about the pet and the ear and why he wears that. That to me, and that's again because the culture that felt like some really samurai shit, which I love samurai stuff if done well. So I actually liked everything they did with Broly. I think near the end I'm a little less because for like then the next 45 minutes he's just like empty vessel of just like rage. So
the
there's a
Hulk.
like
Yeah.
he is, yeah, and it's harder to get because it's like he is that. Then they wish him away, and he's just like, "All right, I guess I can play ball and I'll be a good guy," which is fine because, like you said, it's a good way to keep a villain alive and make him anti-hero. Or there's a new journey. But for someone that's watching, it's just like one film. I felt near the end I was less connected because it was just like he's just getting powerful and powerful. I appreciated he
Yeah.
got the green hair because I was like, "Oh, you gotta
Green
have to
hair.
do that." But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I did really like his story. I liked other characters as well, but him being like the main kind of antagonist or factor in the story, I did really like what they did with him.
Yeah. Dylan, did you want to touch upon Broly at all, or what you
Yeah,
liked about him?
I think that, like I said earlier, the ending, like the whole ending for me, is like really long. Like I don't know what it is about. I don't know, just action scenes in general. Like I was even kind of complaining about like this action in Snowpiercer last week. Like I think it's just really hard for me to care about like a lot of action in movies. It's just not something I really care about or like look for in a movie. Like I think what interests me is if there's like a really cool set piece or something. So think like Inception and how like that's really just interesting locations and like the way they're using these locations, or if there's like big story ramifications, which obviously is the case here, but I just don't have that connection to the characters to be like, man, I can't wait to see like what happens in this fight. So the
Yeah.
fact that it went on for like probably 30 or 40 minutes was like, okay, I've had enough of this. Like it's just guys like knocking each other into mountains and it's cool, but it just like is kind of repetitive, I guess. And I don't know. So I guess that's kind of where I stand on like the ending part of it. But I agree with you guys. I like the story of Broly. I thought it. I mean, it's kind of. I don't know. I feel like it's a story I've seen before, but I don't think
Hmm.
that's a bad thing. Like I think it was fun, and I like the. I can't remember their names, but like the two, like I don't. They're almost like bounty hunters. Like the girl and like the orange dude. I don't know what their names are. Um,
Yeah. So, are you talking about like the green girl? Her name was Chile.
right, Chile, and what's the orange guy's name? Do you remember that?
Uh, Daigen, I think.
He's
Oh
not
no.
a. I guess he's not a common character in the show or something. Not like around
Like
much.
I said, I haven't seen too much of Dragon Ball Super, so I
Right.
I don't know if these guys are show or
Right.
the. So I again.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if they were like part of Dragon Ball Z or something. I'm not sure.
No,
Um.
yeah, they would have been introduced in Super
Right.
or movie.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I liked I like them. Like I thought that scene where they just like brought him aside, they like broke the thing that was shocking him and give him some food and like some water, and they're just like
Mm.
shocked that he's so into this water. It's like he's never had just like pure clean water like this before.
Yeah.
So I thought there was some fun like character beats, and like I don't know, even when he like messes that dude up at the bar when that he's like hitting on Sheila. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just thought that was like kind of a funny scene in general.
Lemo, that's his name.
Lemo,
Yeah.
Sheila and Lemo.
Yeah.
Those are hard to remember, man. There's the names are just
Oh yeah.
they're so wild.
It's
I love
funny
the
too.
names, but it's
It's
hard to
funny
remember
too
them.
because there's a lot of just like I don't know, kind of pun stuff in like maybe they did that for like the American version, but like Frieza, like his dad's name is King Cold, and then his brother's
Okay.
name is Cooler. Like it's just like all like yeah, like and that's a very common thing in like anime. They'll have like just
That's
kind of fun
funny.
things like
I
that.
think that makes sense. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, just the Broly stuff I mentioned. I'm a huge fan of this version over the because in the original he's just this brainless like oaf that's just so strong. He's no brain though. Like all he does is just go rage mode and just try and kill like Goku. Like that's pretty
Hmm.
much like his intention. Whereas this one, it really fleshes out like uh the fact that when he's going crazy, like when he's going that super power mode, like he is kind of embodying like the great ape form. So I didn't mention this before, but when the Saiyans go great ape, they have no idea what's happening. They don't know.
Mm.
They don't they um like in Goku's origin in Dragon Ball, like he actually kills his grandpa by
Oh
being a
man.
great ape, and he has no like recollection of it. It's kind of like a
So
funny thing that happens. He's like, oh yeah, my grandpa died. What happened?
wow. So is it like obviously I think you said it was like when it's like a full moon or something like that is when it activates it?
Yeah.
So is it just like they just don't know that it's coming? Like do they want to be turned into that form?
Well, I think they might have mentioned it briefly in this, but it's pretty much like a last resort thing because,
Okay.
like if your back's against the wall, if you think you're gonna die, in
Yeah.
the show when Vegeta's fighting Goku, he actually goes it like intentionally, and I
Yeah.
think by doing that, he like basically he again, it's really sketchy, but I think he kind of has like a hologram of like a full moon, and then like that's enough to actually like transform him. Again, it's pretty janky.
So
I
yeah.
will
That's
allow
weird
it.
because like I feel like if it was acted by like a full moon, wouldn't if they're like some if Goku and his competitor if they're both capable of it, wouldn't it happen to both of them then?
Well, oh, actually, that's perfect. Thank you for reminding me. I was gonna mention this earlier because Travis was asking why Goku doesn't have a tail. He actually got it removed. So the
Mm.
Saiyans, there's this really powerful race, but their biggest weakness is their tail. If someone grabs it, like they actually just lose their power. Like they just
Wow.
become weak, and it's a kryptonite. It's just an
Huh.
easy easy write off for this super
Right.
powerful race, but we got to give him a weakness. So let's give him a
Of
tail.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Goku, he found that it was basically a weakness, so he wanted to get rid of it. So I think in Dragon Ball, it gets like chopped off and then it just grows back, and then he finds a way to remove it, and that's literally all the description we get as the viewers. So it's like, all right, we'll just go with it. So yeah, Goku can't go or Great Ape anymore because his tail got removed. I think something similar happens to Vegeta because he doesn't have a tail anymore in the show.
Yeah.
And then all the other Saiyans, they usually like wrap it around like a belt, so it's not as easy to be grabbed. But you
Huh.
do see some of the other Saiyans have it.
And you could probably wish to like get it back or something if you remove it, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
If you want to, for
Yeah, the
whatever
thing with
reason.
Goku, he's all about obviously being in control. He doesn't want to hurt his friends or family. He's kind of just like Superman, right? Like he just wants to be the good guy, turn everyone. I mean, maybe I'm comparing Superman improperly. I don't know if Superman's always trying to transfer people and
Oh
on
yeah,
good
he's
guys.
always a good guy. They got the same they have the exact same origin that there's
Yeah,
some planet their planet. There's some problem on their planet and their parents decide to send them off and they're going to meet them later and that planet gets destroyed. So they're
That's
pretty
funny.
I always thought lots of people always did the fantasy fight of like, oh, cuz the Super Saiyan and Superman cuz
Mhm.
they're unstoppable, but they're almost literally the same characters. For I'd say
Yeah,
Goku's definitely a bit more like kooky and weird as far as like his humor. Superman's not that, but then Superman has
yeah.
like he's a little cheesy with his humor. So they were very similar the whole time I was watching this. But
That's funny. Yeah, I actually didn't think about that. Like comparisons of like him landing on Earth with the pod. It's
Oh
like the
yeah.
exact same
It's the
thing.
exact same. It's the same story, and it's funny that like for a while Superman was like the biggest superhero in America, like North American culture, and obviously it seems like in that culture Goku and that is still the biggest hero. But
Yeah.
it's funny that they kind of, the same side of the different coin, kind of where it's like there is differences, but really they represent the same thing and very similar stories. Like, not the actual Dragon Balls, but just the origin point of them and the inception of them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Geez, again, I'm just going on rants.
I feel like you never really said like what do you like this movie? Like obviously you like it, but
Yeah,
like is
yeah,
it like one of your favorite Dragon Ball thing? Obviously you don't have the full scope of it because you haven't seen the other related stuff, but where would you
yeah,
rank it in your Dragon Ball knowledge?
yeah. So thanks for getting me back on track there, Dylan. That's definitely
No, I
lost.
like this. I like you're just a fucking well of knowledge when it comes to Dragon Ball. This is awesome.
Yeah, pretty passionate on it for sure. So yeah, I absolutely love this film. Something I didn't mention was just the change in animation. It's it is just so crazy how far like Dragon Ball has come. Like I think Dragon Ball aired in like the late 80s and like now it's making Dragon Ball Super in 2018 or whenever this movie came out. Like it's
Yeah.
just so obviously, technology gets better, better artists and stuff like that, but like it's so crazy that they can add so much detail in the animation. All the characters have so much more detail than they had before, but they're still able to keep that like beautiful aesthetic of the character design and the world design, which is one of the biggest things uh, that I like in Dragon Ball and in that world is it's just a really it's obviously a fiction place and
Hmm.
they just go all out like on Earth, there's literally dinosaurs. There's people that have flying cars, and there's people that are fighting like samurais with swords. Like it's just such a that it's just let's just have fun in this imaginary world.
Yeah. I
I've just
love the landscapes for
yeah,
sure.
I've
Yeah.
always been drawn to like that art style. Like the capsules. I love those cities. Like they have capsule core. That's like the main. I don't know what you would call them in
The main
comparison.
hub or something. Yeah.
They're like the people that made the capsules, and that's like the main like you saw at the end, like they literally just appear like a building out of the
Yeah.
capsules. There's capsules
That's
that
crazy.
make cars and stuff. Like it's just the main uh, company, I guess you would
Hmm.
call it. And I just love all that stuff. But getting back to the animation, it's just so crazy. Like difference wise, again, you guys don't have experience with Dragon Ball, but like some of the angles and like uh like the 3D animation they incorporated in it, it was very. It didn't seem really janky. Like
I really
uh,
liked that. There's a one when I think it was near the end when I think he had turned into like full on green saying whatever the saying is, and like they were like went into some ice and all around it was like collapsing, but it was like blue and green.
yeah.
Really, really liked that
Oh,
scenery in that
it's
scene. Yeah.
so beautiful. And like when I watch, I'm very critiquey with my anime. If it's a weird like choppy animation, I'm like I can't even watch the show. Even if I like these characters, like it just I can't watch it. So I was definitely juicing for this new age Dragon Ball movie.
that's that,
I
that's
sorry, what were
so
you gonna say?
cool. It's just cool because like in my mind's eye, like this looks the same as any Dragon Ball that I
Yeah.
could picture. So that's cool to hear that it's really come a long way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember even like me and my buddy, we drove to Vancouver a couple years ago see not this movie. I think it was the movie before this one, Return of F. That was like the return of Frieza, who's the character in this film.
Hmm.
You know, when he goes Golden Frieza, that was like the big reveal, and then he's the big bad in that movie.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
just being there and being like, man, this animation is so insane compared to like what Dragon Ball Z used to be back in like the early 2000s, late 90s when it was actually made, right?
Hmm.
Just because of the technology that they have. Yeah,
So
I sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna ask about like the voices then. Like, are these the same voices that these characters
They
have always had?
are, yeah. So in the dub version,
Really? Because
sounds you both right.
that's
Sean
crazy to me. I really
Chanel.
was not a fan of the voice acting at all. I thought it was
Yeah,
really bad.
it's interesting because this, like when I started watching anime, I watched like this, which was in English because TV, like YTV, whatever channel it was.
Hmm.
Uh, I like I just couldn't watch the the sub version because
Of course, yeah,
I think Goku's character in like the Japanese version is actually a female. Like
Yep.
since the beginning, it's been a female,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't stand it. He yells a lot in this, and like it's even a screecher yell in like the subbed
yeah.
version. It's just it was hard. But watching this, I honestly think I prefer like the subtitled version now, just because there's a lot of like jokes and humor and lines that they come off that it just seems really awkward in like the English version because they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to translate it from the Japanese version, and it like they could be saying something funny, but like it only works in like maybe it's like a phrase that I mean when you translate in any language, it's not just word, right? Like sometimes there's a word that has meaning of like seven words, so it can be janky sometimes. So I've definitely
Yeah.
transitioned into becoming more subtitled. Like I prefer that version over the dubbed, and I have to say I think I agree with you, Dylan. I'm not the biggest fan of the dub version anymore, which is crazy to think because that's what I grew up on, and
Right.
it is the same voice actor. They're, like all the other characters have the same voice actors that they
Huh.
had. I think
Wow.
Bulma might have been changed. It sounded a little weird for me, but who knows? I could be wrong there. But
Yeah.
like Vegeta, that's the same voice actor they've had since the show
Wow.
started, so it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That's a cool like fact at least. I guess like of the anime I have watched, like I've always watched it subtitled. Like Hunter x Hunter, I actually watched it like last year, like the first
Oh yeah,
season,
right
and
on.
yeah, and I really like I don't know, I tried the dubs just because I don't know, I was being lazy and yeah, I just couldn't do it. It was terrible. So I
Yeah,
switched to the
yeah,
subs. And I didn't even think about that for this just because I've always like obviously Dragon Ball is anime, but like I've always pictured it as like a very American thing. So I just
yeah,
thought the voices would be like pretty good. And so I didn't even think about it until I was like half an hour in. Then I was like, man, I should have watched the sub version. Like if we're ever requested to do another one of these movies, I think I'll definitely watch it in subs. I think I'd enjoy that more. But yeah, like I thought let me get the names right. Vegeta, I thought his voice was really good, and I can't really think of any others I thought were really good. But yeah, I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it was the mixing with like when they're saying stuff, but to me, I was just really getting the uncanny valley effect of like I was picturing actors in a studio talking into a mic. Like it just didn't
yeah.
really fit the characters for me. So, what did you think about that, Travis? Where are you lie on this?
It didn't bug me at all. I was wondering that, but I just kind of, from what I had seen of Dragon Ball, it just seemed, at least Goku's voice seemed a bit similar, but I, again, very little knowledge. So I was like, this could be, and especially too, I was confused because there was like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super. I was like, is this like a reboot, a new cast? So it didn't really bug me. I've watched dubs before with subtitles. I can do that as well, but it didn't bug me to the point where I felt like I should watch it with subs instead of dubs. So yeah, no, I was fine. Didn't have any problems with anything like that. So yeah, no, I liked it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few scenes that I found like again, they'd be fighting and then it would just be like a humorous little quip that maybe with like 99% of like the Asian viewers that listen to it in like Japanese, maybe it just hits so much better. So if you're watching it subtitled, like because you're reading it, it's a little bit smoother than when you actually hear the actor. Like you said, Dylan, like it feels like he's in a recording studio. It doesn't feel like he's fighting probably for life right now. Like
Hmm.
you know, like it is a little janky there. I feel like I've grown to appreciate the subtitled version a
Yeah,
lot more,
maybe.
just in anime in general, because I
Yeah.
started, watching anime that way.
I wonder if it's just like I've had, Goku, I've known who Goku is for like 20 years and
Yeah,
I just expected his voice to be different because I just didn't have like
yeah,
a strong memory of I've definitely heard him talk when I've watched the show before or whatever, but I just didn't really remember what he sounded like.
hmm,
And I don't know, I think it's just like in general, like the Japanese voices just sound so cool. Like just I don't know, just the language or in most anime I've watched, it just
yeah.
I really like the Japanese voices. So
And I feel like they like those lines, whether it be like it feels like it's out of place in the English version, like it just their Japanese version because I mean I don't
mm-hmm.
speak Japanese, but you just hear their tone and the way they talk. Like it just it there's something different there, and I feel
Yeah.
like you don't really get that in the dubbed version
I
because
think the
you
over
can't
the
rewrite
top
the script.
Yeah. I think the over the top like screams and like hype moments, I think
Yeah.
those just work so well in Japanese.
Oh yeah. Oh come on, for sure. um Jeez, where? Oh, okay. I'll touch upon the Super Saiyan stuff because there was a couple like changes that happened that weren't too clear. So the first one that I'm sure everyone could recognize was just the yellow hair. That's
Mm-hmm.
just basic Super Saiyan. So what that
Yeah.
means is, if you're a Saiyan, if you're human, it's not applicable. But if you're Saiyan, um, again, I could get some details wrong here, but like you basically are just unlocking like an untapped power within yourself that just takes you to that super form. Trying to think of something I can compare it to like comic book just going above and beyond. I don't know. They don't have too much of that in superhero stuff. It's pretty much just they got their powers, and that's it. It is a reoccurring thing in anime where it's like, oh, I gotta get stronger, and
Well,
hit the ceiling and go past it.
Captain Marvel has like binary mode, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's pretty much like their binary mode of just going above and beyond. So there's many different versions throughout the show. There's Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, which looks very, very similar. Super Saiyan 3 is the iconic one where it just has insane hair that like goes
Yeah,
down to his ass. I don't know if you guys seen those photos around.
I saw a few of them. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then the red version, I think it was Vegeta that I went.
I love the
Uh,
red tone on
yeah.
there.
So what that is it's Super Saiyan God. Now I don't know all the details on it. I saw there was a movie. It's called Battle of the Gods, which introduced the Beerus character, who wasn't really in this. He was like the cat, the little cat that kind of just sits at the beach, like doesn't go fight.
Isn't he the god of
So
destruction or something? They
yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's the god of destruction. So in that movie, it introduces him and then fights him. Gets his ass kicked. He's coming to destroy Earth. That's his job. And then they have to do this sort of ritual where they take 6 Saiyans that have the power of Super Saiyan to make one Super Saiyan God, which is Goku. And then you know he
Love
becomes the
it.
red version. He's a little bit scrawnier because I don't know. It's just he has God powers. We'll leave it at that. And then somehow they find a way to just go it on their own, and then that's when Vegeta gets the power. Again, that's Super Saiyan, or sorry, Dragon Ball Super stuff that I haven't fully caught up on, so I'm not too familiar with that stuff. So I apologize there. But then the blue hair, which is Super Saiyan Blue, which I'm so glad they changed the name because it used to be called Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan,
Oh no.
which is just it's a big oh no. But it's just huge facepalm when I found that out. I'm like, geez, man, like they're just gonna keep adding these Super Saiyan, like Super
Oh yeah.
Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, like just like how many times are they gonna be saying that? So then now it's just Super Saiyan Blue, and that's basically going Super Saiyan God, but you're going above the limit. You know, you're going Super
Mhm.
Saiyan while the Super Saiyan God. Again, kind of eye rolly. We'll just go with it because it looks badass. I'm a huge fan of this form. I think the hair looks sick. I think the effects just so awesome. And yeah, I just loved it. I love the form. So those were the versions that they showed in this, other than Broly's version, which was like the green power. And I might have missed it in this movie, but in the original movie, that is just like the legendary Super Saiyan form, which is just this one Saiyan that is just untold power, and that's basically what Broly is. And that's why they're just having so much issues with him.
Hmm.
So again, I could have had my facts wrong.
Hey
Course.
man, it sounds good to me. I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Hopefully they
know more
haven't.
than us. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, those are the Super Saiyans.
Nice.
I'm glad that they didn't show like too many of the other characters because I feel like throwing in a lot of like Goku's kids or Vegeta's son or like stuff like that. I feel like it would just like you guys or just the average viewer like so much more. Like just keeping it, you got your two iconic characters, Vegeta and Goku. Those are like the main guys that you're rooting for. You have Frieza, which even if you haven't seen the show, you can kind of figure that he's this big bad. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like Travis, have you seen like an image of that guy before?
Yeah, I have.
Probably,
Yeah.
whether it's in a game or something, right? Like
Oh yeah.
you have these iconic characters. So I think doing that in this movie that again, I could be wrong, but I think it's actually the canon movie. So I think doing that with the iconic characters, I think that was a smart move for sure. Overall, I absolutely love this movie. I just got me so hyped for more Dragon Ball Super. I definitely got to jump back in there. But like you mentioning Dylan, like the last half of this movie just being all action, it's crazy because like in anime there's a lot of times that there's like 30 episodes leading up to a fight like that you know it's coming. You tune in every week expecting it to start and it doesn't. It's just like, oh no, and find out next week if this
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
And then when it finally happens, I'm literally just like melting. Like it's just so epic. I'm such a huge fan of the
Yeah.
animation, the drawing style that they do in these huge battles, and that's what this half of the movie was. They usually do that in the Dragon Ball movies. Like the last half of the movie is just one big drawn out fight, and I eat that shit up, man. I love it so much. I had chills, I had goosebumps. It was epic for me for sure.
Nice. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm a
I was
huge fan
gonna
of the movie.
say, I was gonna say quickly. I think you made a good point. Like, I didn't even know Goku has a son at this point in the timeline. Like, Vegeta. I don't even really know his story at all, but I think they made a good balance of like here's a bunch of characters, but not too many. Like obviously some
Yeah.
other parts, like I don't know their whole story, obviously, but I think they had a good mix. And like even when they threw Piccolo in there, I do recognize Piccolo. I do know that guy by name of the few I do know. And I was like, oh no, what is he doing in the story now? But then
Yeah.
I think they redeemed it because he's not in it much, and I think it fit in there just enough to be a nice little segue in the story at that point, while getting like a iconic character, like even a character I would consider iconic from the Dragon Ball franchise,
Yeah. No, for
in there
sure.
for a quick minute. So
For
it
sure.
was
No, I totally I totally give him props for that because I feel like if I was watching Dragon Ball, I was all caught up. I had a couple friends, let's just say you guys for example. I mean, maybe you guys are a bad example because I know you won't watch anime, but some guys that are kind of maybe interested in Dragon Ball, I would totally recommend them a movie like this where it's
hmm
not because there is some movies that if you don't know what's going on, man, like you would be so lost because it's like talking about some relationships that are going on like in the show, and it's just like I don't even know who the fuck these guys are. So obviously you wouldn't watch a movie like that. But this, it's got a decent balance of throwing in some love for the fans of the
yeah,
show of Dragon Ball. Me, I'm not all the way caught up in Dragon Ball Super, but I could appreciate a lot of these characters that they're bringing back. Like in those flashback episodes, we got to see the Ginyu Force in there. Obviously, I'm not expecting you guys to know who they were, but like for me, I'm just hyped because like that stuff, it just brings back nostalgic memories of like my childhood, right? Seeing Bardock, like that's a character that's been gone forever, so it's just sweet to see him on screen
awesome.
again, stuff like that. Whereas I don't have to be caught up, but I'm still loving it. And then
Yeah,
overall, I'm a huge fan of this
nice,
movie. If you're a Dragon Ball fan and you're still catching up, or you just want someone to scratch that itch, definitely get back on this movie because
nice.
I don't know. I think it's just such a. I wasn't too sure about the whole like fact that they're just redoing the whole Broly thing. I didn't even know this was just a remake going into it. And they did a good job, and I'm definitely glad that it happened because the original Broly stuff, I think, is just almost incomparable to this.
Nice. And there's like a sequel to this movie directly, right?
Uh,
I don't think
Is there? I thought I
yet.
saw that. Maybe I was seeing an earlier one that they like
you're
before
probably
this.
talking about the original one. So
Oh, okay.
there's the Broly movie. I forget what it's called. The original came out in like
Okay.
1996 or something, like long time ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sequel was The Return of Broly, which would have been the sequel to that, and then the third one,
Oh,
which was Bio
yeah.
Broly, which
Yeah,
is
I
like
guess because it's 2018, it probably doesn't make sense for a whole
yeah.
nother movie to
Yeah,
get put
it's
So yeah,
together.
and then this is the newest movie, and like the show, I think Travis mentioned it went till 2018. So I think this kind of who knows,
Back
maybe
up to
rounded it
speed.
out. Yeah.
Huh.
well, yeah, it's funny because we had watched this today, but then it's just some Twitter thing I follow was like how Friesen's planning his next attack on Broly, and everything like that. It's just like I
Yeah.
just watched this and it's so weird. So clearly, like obviously, it's popular that they're gonna keep going and whatnot, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know
I
what the
mean,
next
geez.
installment is, whatnot. Because yeah, the episodes it seems like end in 2018. I've been trying to find what is happening after, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, leaving Broly alive, leaving him kind of a semi-positive character. Like at the end, he was smiling. You know, he kind of
yeah,
friends. He's not miserable with his dad again, which is totally different from what they left off originally. It was just, oh, Broly's gone. Hopefully, he doesn't come back because we're all fucked. He's that powerful. The only
Mm,
reason why he's so mad at us is because Goku was crying. Like it's just like it's so like
yeah,
cheesy and kind of corny, but he was such a cool character that I'm really glad that they fixed it this way. Like
nice.
made him more of a character, like an actual character, as opposed to just this huge force that we have to deal with.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. My
I
last
oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I have one last note. It's a quick one, but I really like the music throughout. It's not used tons, I guess, but there's some really sick amounts of score. Like especially in the ending fight, I thought it was really good. But even earlier on, there's just some really nice musical pieces in there. So
I'm really glad you brought that up because I actually forgot to mention like when Goku after Broly fucks up Vegeta and then Goku's like the one that's gonna start fighting and then he does his his little warm up jog or whatever and then the
hmm
theme starts playing and I don't know if this is a Dragon Ball Super thing but I've never experienced this in Dragon Ball Z before but it's like a very specific like song for that fight like I think he even says I don't know the voice is just like Kakarot and then he says Broly afterwards and it's just like just the epic music and like the build up to it I was digging it. It was something that I hadn't experienced in the show before and I loved it. It happened a few times. I think there was another one where again the ominous voice in the song was like Vegeta and I was just digging it, man. It was awesome. But thank you for mentioning the music because I totally
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah,
That's funny.
the timeline I got. Yeah, so you had like when you talked about the Resurrection F, which was 2015. So that was the start of the podcast. That's probably when we were seeing that. And then Dragon Ball Super was 2015 and 2018, and then this came after. So this I think kind of acted as like a semi finale or like kind of
Yeah.
ending for that series. And right now, currently, there's a show called Super Dragon Ball Heroes, which seems like I think it's kind of a spin off. Like the Vegeta and Goku seem to be in it, but they're not the main ones on the poster. So I don't know, but
Okay,
that
yeah.
seems to be what is currently, and that
So-
was
Sounds
2018 to now.
familiar to
Yeah.
like Dragon in I don't know if you guys heard, but it's called Dragon Ball GT, which came after Dragon Ball Z, which wasn't canon. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's geez, what's it called? When a lot of people like, a lot of people don't. What's that word? Controversial, sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a lot of stuff went on it that
Divisive.
not. Yeah, very divisive. I liked it to an extent because it was just more Dragon Ball stuff. There's some weird routes that they go that, yeah, okay, I guess we're here, but I am glad it's not canon. I didn't even mention that when I was talking about like Dragon Ball in the first place because I didn't think I have to. It's pretty forgettable.
Yeah, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. The description is by a fan. You go to IMDb if you want the whole. It has the 34 different like movies and TV shows and has them all in order. So if you have any interest, but it's the continuation of Dragon Ball Super, the TV series, and a crossover between Dragon Ball Super and the arcade video game Dragon Ball Heroes. So there you go. It's a crossover. It's a TV show crossing over the video game. You don't get that every day.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Dragon Ball
Yeah.
Z: The Return of Cooler. I gotta look into that. There's a villain named
Cooler.
Cooler.
Cooler's a badass character.
Oh, yeah.
I think he looks way cooler.
And then the way you're
That's like
supposed
the
to.
green and black guy.
No, that's Cell.
Oh.
Cooler's not. I don't.
He's
I
like
don't know, I've
silver. He looks like a robot almost. He looks like
Yeah.
some sort of Silver Surfer. Yeah, the original Dragon Ball series just
I'll Google him
it
quick.
debuted 1986, 1989. Yeah, that's there's
Yeah,
a
man.
lot. There's a
Like,
that's a
that
huge
anime-
quest.
Yeah.
If
that
I wanted to
animation
watch this,
compared to where we are now, it is.
available on Amazon.
Wow, this guy's crazy. looking.
Yeah, if it's on Prime, you never know.
He's got a cool mask.
See, I would like to watch more of this, but then when I just look at like how much there is, it is crazy. Like I did the math on just Dragon Ball Z the series, and there's
Oh, yeah.
291 episodes. It would take you 5 days in total to watch the whole thing, which is
Oh,
not
yeah.
that bad. But like when you have all this other stuff on top of it, my God! But
Yeah,
Oh.
a lot of that is filler. That
yeah,
I mean, it's a running theme in all anime. There's just some unnecessary things in between.
yeah, I would skip all
major-
the non-canon ones probably to start off with.
There was a series. I think it's called Dragon Ball Kai. It had like
Yeah.
updated animation. and it
2009 to
was basically just
2015.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, it was basically just Dragon Ball Z, but without filler. So I think that's actually a really good just recommendation if you're at all interested in Dragon Ball Z. Kind of want to know what the general story is, but don't have 5 days of actual running time. to,
Really,
like,
yeah,
catch up on all these filler
it's
things, so-
listed here a remake of Dragon Ball Z, an HD enhanced remaster of
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z. Okay.
I've never watched it, but I've heard good things. I had a couple buddies that wanted to check out Dragon Ball Z when it was kind of like resurfacing, in the Western world. You mentioned Travis, like it was starting to be in theaters. He's like, oh, it kind of makes me want to jump back into that series. So then he was watching Kai, and he was really so yeah,
Okay.
definitely recommend that if you're at all interested and don't have time for all that filler bullshit. I'm
There's-
not even that interested in the filler stuff. It's just so like, why are we even here? Like this is so unnecessary.
There's probably like watch guides online too that have like
Yeah, that's a
skip
good
these
point.
episodes.
It looks like this one, the other one, that is a lot of filler though, because that one has 291 the original. This says it's 159, so that's cutting out a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
man.
there. Wow,
Oh yeah.
crazy. Do you guys have any? The only 2 points I have is there's one point where I think it was that girl that kind of had a thing for Broly. I can't remember her name, but as they're like flying Chile, when they're flying up, they look at the sky. These ships that are also flying just looked like sperm. It was very off-putting. And the only negative I really have about the fight, because I liked that, I'm a guy that likes longer fights. I didn't like that, and maybe you can explain this to me. So Vegeta goes in there, he kicks Broly's ass, and Broly gets really powerful. He beats him, and then Goku's like, "Oh, I haven't got a chance to fight." Now, I thought, okay, Vegeta's maybe like knocked out and he is, incapacitated. He's satisfied. But at one point, they just shoot to the mountains and he's just standing there watching. Why is he not like? I know he does get involved, but I feel like he should get involved a little sooner. And
Yeah.
I did like one time where at the end, Goku's like, oh, here, take this pill. It'll heal all your injuries. But what would it take to kill someone? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It felt very, I didn't know what the limit was of someone dying. But yeah, I didn't like Vegeta just sitting there, just kind of watching, because I just felt this guy so far. There's been so many times where like, we've never seen this before. But he's like, I'm still just going to let Goku go. I know that might be the relationship, but it caught me off guard as like a first time viewer that I didn't like. Like, I feel like this should be all hands on deck. It gets that way, but it takes it takes a little longer. And like I said, he was just chilling. So
No, for sure. That's definitely a reoccurring theme throughout the show. Like, there's villains that it's like, okay, if we lose, all life is done, and then it's just like they're having a 1v1, watching, kind of like respecting the fight. It's like, I don't totally agree with their methods there, but I mean, I guess it's pretty cool because if that's your favorite character, you're like rooting for him, I guess. But no, that's definitely a reoccurring thing that happens. The Saiyans are also, they mentioned like they're a very proud race, so like it's all about honor. Like, I want to have the chance to fight them on my own. Like, there's plenty of times that Vegeta and Goku are like, they're like fighting to find out who can fight the villain. Like, that has happened in the show.
wow.
And so yeah, it's not too uncommon. Again, if you're not used to that, it might seem a little weird. I mean, even me, like, it seems weird because there'll be times like that happens in this movie that Vegeta gets ass kicked, goes and like recovers on the sidelines, just watching, and then he ends up joining. I don't know if he was just gaining his strength. I don't know if it's just written that way, so we just accept it. Like, I don't know. It's but yeah, I agree with your point there though. There's plenty of times throughout the show that I've felt very very strongly just mad at my characters. You guys could just team up and just beat them in like 2 minutes, but whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole Senzu Bean thing, they mentioned a few times in this. I don't know if you guys knew, but it's basically, again, total just plot armor, whatever you want to call it. It's just you eat it, it gives you strength. It heals all your injuries.
Yeah.
I think
So
Goku might have mentioned it. And then the important thing though, with that is that the Saiyan race, if they are like basically taken to like death's doorstep and they're about to die, but then when they recover, they end up becoming stronger than they were when they were like about to die. So
I see.
just another little, yeah.
Break it down to build it back up sort of day, you know?
Yeah, so like they'll get their ass kicked, they'll take a Senzu Bean, and they're even strong.
Wow.
Must be nice.
It must be nice, eh? It's hype for the fans when that happens, because then they're just jacked again, and you think they lost. Like, oh fuck yeah!
And you get another 5-episode arc.
Yeah, exactly. You get 9 episodes of just fighting.
Do you guys have any other points? I have trivia, so if not, I can move on to that.
Hit me with the triv.
I'm definitely pumped for trivia, and I just gotta say, I'm definitely proud of our Patreon subscriber for picking this film, because how long has this podcast been bumping and we haven't even touched Dragon Ball? So I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with that recommendation.
It's been like, obviously the world is a weird place right now, but it's been a while, right? If you think of like the Patreon requests we've had, like the next one up is we're doing Batman Arkham series. Before that, we've done like a Cocktail Tom Cruise movie. We did Snowpiercer last week. We've done Steel, now Dragon Ball. Like we've been all over the world. So yeah, big shout out to everybody. Making some unique choices. That's what I like to. Nothing just like, oh, here's your big mainstream one. That might be a little like easier to find sometimes on the interwebs, but they.
Yeah, I will say you get bonus points from Dylan if you pick something that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like Steel. That was literally the hardest movie I've ever had.
Yeah.
You had to fight Broly to find a copy, you know?
Yeah, like that's how hard.
Take a Senzu Bean.
Yeah, this one is for Steel. So according to the director and the writers, the screenplay was written that was 3 hours long, but the film only runs 2 hours. So the director and the animators collaborated and to analyze what could be kept in the film and what has been dropped out due to the running time purposes. However, there are some of those scenes that were animated you can find on the Blu-ray/DVD. So there you go. So Dylan, if you thought that fight was originally long, the 3-hour version, it was probably just another hour and a half of that fight.
No, I think I'm going to pass on that.
The first time in all that was capitalized, all the franchise, including the non-canon, that the films, that Vegeta is not humiliated nor beaten. In fact, he gives Broly more difficult time than Goku, which I guess is debatable. But I guess that's a fact. Vegeta's always getting beat or humiliated. That sucks. I liked Vegeta.
That's a funny fact.
Poor guy.
Vegeta's got a sad origin story.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like he had the greatest dad, you know, so a little messed up. With an hour and 40 minutes, this is the franchise's longest film to date, so there you go. Yeah. Let's see. Who is the creator of this Dragon Balls?
Akira Toriyami.
There you go. That's the name right there. Began to write Dragon Ball Super in 2015. He was reluctant about adding Broly to the franchise. Instead, he wrote a character named Kale, who is a Saiyan and a homage to Broly. However, one of the series producers early 2017 convinced him to add Broly into the series, so he wrote a new story for Broly and drew a new design, so this version could be different from the original film. So there you go. For a while, it seems like he was trying to stay away from it, but they brought him back in.
I can't even picture this movie without Broly. He's the entire thing.
No,
Uh,
I'm definitely glad they went the route of like redoing the whole.
No, I think they mean like like they would. This movie was a spawn out of that. Like he's in the series now, but I think there was no plans to do like this at all originally. I think that's what that meant, and then that's how
Mm.
this movie happened. Was like, oh, put him in the series because it seems like now anything like you were talking about Resurrection F, they do a movie and then that storyline is implanted into the series. So
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. The Ricardo Bust, the voice actor for Broly in Latin American dub, lost his voice for weeks after he finished recording the screams of Broly. So that guy couldn't talk for a while. Let's see. Broly is the first animated film to ever be formatted and released in IMAX worldwide. And my
Damn.
final note was, I guess I was wondering this, but I answered my question. This is the only Dragon Ball film without blood, which is crazy because we just went down. There's a lot of them, but I wasn't sure if that was like a PG or rating thing. But yeah, this is the only one with no blood.
Yeah, that is
Plasma.
interesting. I didn't really notice. Yeah, there's no.
Yeah. So
And like the usage of blood, it's not like there's blood and guts everywhere. It's usually like they'll cough up blood, or they'll just
yeah,
have like blood on their buddy or on their body and
they're Broly, buddy.
their.
My blood buddy.
Yeah, so my final thoughts are, you know what, I enjoyed it more when it started. Honestly, I was a bit more like, okay, I don't know how much, especially just because not only just the lore as far as what's going on in this world. I thought, is it just too much? Especially now that I'm looking at the lore, it feels like it's more like the end game or when the Infinity Wars of like, there's so much going on and there's a culmination. There's a huge. I didn't know because I didn't know Broly if he was a massive character like you're talking about with fanfare. Or it was just, oh, this is the villain of the week as far as like the film, right? Like, oh, here's a new villain, and I like knowing that now in retrospect that he is a bigger name because I just thought, well, if every movie's kind of like this or every series of like, I know he said they're building up, but when I'm watching, it's like this guy's such a god tier. It's like, where do you kind of go from that? But then when you mention he's kind of one of the bigger, like a Thanos or something, that makes sense because like, okay, this big character is getting this big movie, this big kind of send off or send in, obviously. So yeah, I ended up quite enjoying it. And like I said, I don't know if I have the life bandwidth to dive in, but I'm definitely a little intrigued. It's one of those things that it's kind of on my radar now, and I never know. There's things I like. I guess that's the biggest thing I can say is it got me interested in the world, and when I'm looking up lore and stuff like that, that's when it did its job. Not everything was perfect, like I said. So I'm gonna give it, and this is me as the mainstream guy. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 for my enjoyment because, like I said, I think the beginning for only talking as a non like viewer and the first time ever was just jumble as far as they're throwing so much. I think you could have paced it a little bit better, but again, somebody that knows that stuff, I think there's probably no problem with it. So, but I enjoyed it, and yeah, this might not be my last Dragon Ball Z thing I watched, which is kind of crazy because I didn't
Yeah.
think that going out. Where there's other things I've watched, for like I've watched a Pokemon, and I've been like, okay, I'm good to stay out of that world. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Dragon Ball Z Broly.
Cool. I really enjoyed this movie as well, and as Travis kind of mentioned earlier, I think this is a fun Patreon pick. So I'm glad you picked this one because yeah, it's something different, something cool, and yeah, like I've very narrowly dipped my toes into the Dragon Ball world. So this is it's kind of a weird place to jump in, like the most recent thing, but
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
had a good time with it. And yeah, like I would definitely watch a sequel to this, and I don't know, maybe I'll go watch the other super movies or something. But I would definitely
Yeah.
watch a sequel. Like if a sequel does come out to this and it hits Netflix or theaters or whatever, maybe we'll do a review of it. Like I'd be down for that after this.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Tight. Yeah, I'm just gotta say I'm actually really happy that you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
this was gonna be like, oh yeah, what's going on here? I mean, that kind of happened. You guys weren't trolling me as hard as I thought I was expecting to get trolled, so that's good. I absolutely love this movie. I already mentioned it's really wanted me to jump back in. It's the animation is just so gorgeous, and I just want to just delve more into some of the lore because there was even stuff that was mentioned here that's like related to Super that I was completely clued in. And I was like, okay, I don't want to research that because I don't want to get spoiled in my googling because that's happened many times. But yeah, I'm gonna recommend this to any Dragon Ball Z fan. Even if you're not caught up in Super, you don't have to be, man. I'm not caught up. This was awesome. I loved it, and probably just give it like a 10 out of 10. Just
Oh,
I was
Oh,
thinking 9 out of 10, but the
boom.
fact that they fixed in like his making him again, he's not a human, but making him more of a human type character as opposed to just this symbol of absolute destruction that no one can stop, and there's no like real reasoning why he's such an asshole. I'm really glad they did that, and it is a bold move, but I think it paid off.
Nice.
sick.
Well, there you go. Like we've said before, if you want us to review something, if you got a wild pick, if you got something we haven't touched before, we'll do it. That's the benefits of Patreon. You go over there, and not only that, you get a bunch of early content and you get exclusive content. There's commentary tracks up there that aren't going to go on the feed. There's After Nines. There's the Hobbit retros that have been up there for a while. There's Howard the Duck. There's Catwoman. So there's tons of stuff up there for you. So thank you very much for tuning this review. Whenever you hear from us next from our next retrospective, it'll not be boring.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, so I forgot to start my recording for at least the first few minutes, so you probably won't get my intro, but